Alright, so we've looked at LBSC Thomas. We've looked at this stupid thing from Big World Big Adventures. We've looked at Edward's exploit, Edward. And we've looked at Old Shape Henry. Yeah. Now it's time to talk about Domeless Gordon from Gordon and the Famous Visitor. Yet another classic Thomas and Friends episode. Like, there are a lot of classic episodes, if I'm being honest. Okay, so in this episode, like the episode implies, the engines meet a famous visitor, and then Gordon, like, is obviously jealous and resentful. And I love when he says, "Never trust Domeless engines, they are not respectable." That's one of my favorite lines. But anyways, so Gordon goes over this really windy bridge, and he basically loses his dome. I think it's karma for, like, saying that Domeless engines are not respectable. I think that's what it is. So basically, Gordon guys comeuppance, and everyone makes fun of him now for not having a dome, even the troublesome trucks. But anyways, I really love this custom right here. Like, not just because of his, like, missing dome, but look at that face. Like, that... I think, like, his face really does fit this model pretty well, because, like, he's missing his dome and he's upset. And, like, I really love this. So here he is next to the original Gordon. Like, I still think that face is pretty cute, and obviously you can see that this one has his dome and this one doesn't. Like, that's one of the things I love about these models. Like, sometimes, like, they will have different paint jobs, they'll have different parts missing off them, like Edward is missing one of his side rods, as I said. But yeah, looking at these customs is so beautiful. Like, could you imagine if Mattel did this, or, like, Bluebird Toys, if they didn't go bankrupt? We should have gotten this. Mattel, you should have done this instead of Thomas Minis. Let's be honest here. Like, I know you want to, like, have a bunch of stylized toys, like, you can, like, make different colors of, but, like, if you do this, people will, like, buy them 100%. Like, you should, like, have made more Bluebird miniature trains and more train sets, and, like, with these. Like, if we got this over Thomas Minis, I would be a happy camper. And, like, I would have, like, paid all of my money for this. Let's be honest. But still, it is cool that these are 3D printed and that I don't have to pay much. And yes, I did customize these myself. And if you want to, like, make your own, like, I can, like, either give you a tutorial or I can post my files on Etsy if you want. So, like, you can make your own, like, so you don't have to, like, do what I do. But still, I bet most of you would like me to do a tutorial on how I make my Bluebird Thomas trains, and I promise I might do that one day. I don't know. So yeah, I don't really know what else there is to say about Domeless Gordon, except, like, I think it is pretty cute and funny, like, how he's missing his dome, and, like, this has to be, like, another one of my favorites I've ever made, like, especially that sad little face he has. Like, Gordon has, like, one of the best faces in the show. Like, I think his angry face is my favorite, and especially his pompous face, and I really love his shocked face in Season 5, and his sad face in Season 6. Like, I think we can all agree that Gordon is one of the best Thomas characters. I'm happy that he's still around. But anyways, so yeah, if you really like this custom, please tell me. Now we move on to LNER Green Gordon. Now, I know what you're probably going to be saying, like, well, why does he have the number 4 if he's LNER? Like, shouldn't he have his LNER lettering? Well, yeah, but, like, here we have Green Gordon, LNER Gordon. Anyways, now, one thing I do have to say is that his face is a little bit bigger than the other one. Like, the reason I like these faces, sometimes, like... Now, one of the things about the face that sometimes they won't always turn out perfect. They'll be, like, too big to fit on them. Like, no, they'll be the right size. It's just, I love the black outlining around them. Okay, so, yeah. But anyways, like, I really do think, like, there really isn't that much of a difference. Like, he's basically the same as LBSC Thomas right here, except he's painted in a more darker green, like the Green Arrow and the Flying Scotsman. Like, I bet you can see the resemblance in those two. I do love the white lining he has, and Yeah, I don't know what else to say about Green Gordon. He's just Green Gordon. Like, there really isn't that much to him. Like, this was before he was painted blue when he first arrived on Sodor. And I think it would be nice if we got, like, if someone did a fan-made story on how Gordon was green, but then he got painted blue. Same thing with, like, Edward. Because, like, Edward was actually painted red before he was painted blue, and he had the Furnace Railway logo, because he did come from the Furnace Railway, the same railway Albert was on. But yeah, I really do hope you like this, Gordon. And alright, so next we do have Black James from The Adventure Begins as well. Not just that, but from the Railway series as well. So here's next to James the Red Engine, and this was like, oh wait, The Adventure Begins is how you should have done Thomas and the Breakdown Train. You should have had James Black from the start, and you should have had like, okay, here's one thing I don't understand. So, in The Adventure Begins, they painted James black before he was painted red, and same with the Railway series. But in the TV show, they kept James red for some odd reason. Like, I don't understand, like, why couldn't you have painted James black and then painted him red? I think that would have made a lot more sense in the model series, and I think that would be more appealing to the eyes. Like, I'm sure that would be awesome. But anyways. Yeah, he's pretty much like LBSC Thomas. Like, these two are perfect together. Like, these have to be some of my favorite customs. Like, it goes to show that The Adventure Begins is one of the best Thomas and Friends movies of all time. If you love The Adventure Begins, please tell me. Alright, so, moving on from Black James. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Okay, I thought the crash scene was pretty cool, and the runaway scene is definitely one of my favorite moments. And, like, I do wish they could have, like, added that where James, like, no, I would have been nice if they did the runaway scene in the model series as well, where Thomas is trying to chase after James, tries to couple up from the back of his bright van and trying to slow him down before he, like, crashes. And, like, I think the crashing was pretty satisfying. The moment when Thomas tries to chase him down and, like, try to slow him down, like, basically catching up to him, like, racing to save his life. I think that was pretty heroic of Thomas to do. Like, The Adventure Begins is how you should have done Thomas in the Breakdown Train. Keep that in mind. Alright, now we move on to, okay, James Goes Buzz Buzz. Definitely one of, like, the most, this episode used to scare me as a kid, because, like, I really didn't like the scene when James got stung by a bee, and that's the reason why I'm scared of bees to this day. But I'm sure that James Goes Buzz Buzz isn't all that bad. Like, I have gotten used to it now that I'm older. Like, now that I'm adult, I really love this episode. It's definitely, like, a little bit better than before. Like, this used to be my least favorite episode when I was a very young toddler. Like, I was really not a fan of James Goes Buzz Buzz back then. But I'm sure, like, you know the story, so... For some reason, the porter was in a hurry and that the beehive broke and the bees went on James's warm boiler. And then James got stung by a bee just because he burnt one bee in his foot. And I did like the scenes where they're trying to get rid of the bees, like, trying to wash them off, trying to, like, blow them off with smoke. Like James said, like, I think James's character is one of the best moments in this episode. Like, he's really so snarky and rude, and this is basically, like, karma for being that. Like, basically saying diesels are, like, bad and, like, you shouldn't listen to them. Like, I think this is karma for saying that. Like, it really shows that James should watch what he says, or else this is what's gonna happen to him if he's rude. Like, I think it's pretty, like, clever of them to, like, do, like... I find it funny when a, like, snarky and arrogant character gets what they deserve. I mean, no offense to James the Red Engine. I really like him as a character, like... But I'm just saying, like, for the fact that James was rude to Boko, like, I think this is what came to him, like... Basically, Boko says, don't make the bees angry, or they might sting you. And that's basically what happens to James. And then there's this funny line when the vicar says, it's a pity it's not Christmas. Then we can call you James the Red-Nosed Engine. That still has me, like, pretty laughing to this day. Like, I think that's a funny moment in the episode. But, like, yeah. Okay, I feel like the face could have been a bit better preserved, but, like, I still really love this face. Like, this is pretty cute. And if you really love James Goes Buzz Buzz, please tell me in the comments below. And did this episode scare you as a kid too? I would like to know that. Please tell me. But anyways, now we've gotten over, like, okay, Mr. Incrediburny's favorite train, James the Red Engine. Mr. Incrediburny, if you are watching this, I really hope you do like this, James. And If you haven't seen James Goes Buzz Buzz, like, I really recommend you should. It might scare you, like, in the fact that James gets stung by a bee, but, like, I'm pretty sure it won't if you're, like, really old. Like, if you are older than, like, let's say 5 or 10 years old. But yeah, I really love this now that I'm older. Like, yeah, even if this episode used to scare me as a kid, I still like it. Alright, so that's like 8 out of the 14. So like a little bit more than halfway there. So let's keep going with, okay, a close shave for Duck. Yet another great Thomas and Friends episode, and what should have been the final episode of Devious Diesel. Okay, so if you don't know, in the Railway series, Diesel actually did get sent away for, like, telling lies about Duck. And I think that's basically where Diesel's story should have ended. And it would have been a great conclusion for the Duck and Diesel trilogy, as I'm going to call it. But for some reason in the TV show, they thought he was a marketable character, so they had to keep bringing him back. Even if he was unnecessary. Like, if you read, like, the Railway series, like, episodes, like, stories like, Mavis or, Tender Engines, Diesel is not seen in there at all. Instead, we get a scene where Gordon actually speaks to the Flying Scotsman, and he's reunited with his brother, which is one of the sweetest moments in Thomas Friends. If they had the budget to make the Flying Scotsman, I would have loved to see a scene where him and Gordon are talking to each other and reuniting as brothers and, like, saying how they've been. Like, I feel like that would have been one of the most emotional moments in Thomas and Friends. Like, it could have been better than just, like, shoehorning Diesel in just for, like, an easy profit. Same thing with, like, Mavis. Like, you don't have to have Diesel, like, having a conversation with Mavis, basically saying to ignore Toby. You can, like, cut out that scene and the story would probably still flow, because, like, Mavis already isn't a fan of Toby. Like, she didn't like him at first, but after she saved his life, they're good friends now. But anyways, back to Duck. So, in this episode, it basically follows up after Duck gets sent away, like, to Edward Station, and, like, him and Edward are pulling a good strain, and Duck basically, like, strolls along, and the trucks are chasing him, they catch up. He crashes into a barber shop, which, okay, can we, like, wait, so, I think one thing that doesn't make sense, like, why would you actually put a barber shop right next to a railway track? Like, that doesn't, like, make any sense at all. Like, I don't think we've ever seen that in real life. Like, why would they actually have a barbershop in front of the tracks where Duck can just crash? Like, isn't that just for plot convenience or contrivances? I don't know. However, I did find it funny when the barbershop, like, smeared, like, shaving cream on Duck's face, and this is basically painted on Duck's actual face, and I think my favorite line is when Sir Tom Metz says, "It was a very close shave." Like, that's one of my favorite lines in the show. And I did find it weird, like, okay, you can see Duck's face, like, up close. Like, his smile was a little bit creepy, like, especially when they, like, lathered him up with shaving cream. But, like, I did like the scene where they splashed him with water and, like, removed it. Though he did still have a little bit on his face, and I still thought that was a bit creepy as a kid. But, like, there are a lot of few moments in Thomas Friends that did creep me out as a kid, especially Diesel 10 and some of the crashes. But now that I'm older, I really am happy with those crashes, and I think they're satisfying. And now I'm happy that Diesel 10 is one of the best villains ever. Alright, so there isn't any much that I can say about Close Shave for Duck in this Bluebird model, because he's basically the same as this Duck, except he's just covered in shaving cream. But, like, I really did like the scene where Sir Topham Hatt says, "I've sent Diesel packing, and that the other engines are sorry, and they want you back." I think that's one of the best moments in Duck's character arc. People aren't really saying that Duck isn't that much of a character, but I think Duck did go through a bit of a arc, like, with Diesel. Like, I think that this would have been the perfect send-off for Diesel's character, and, like, that's what Devious Diesel deserves. I think it's what he gets for, like, trying to, like, lie about Duck. It just shows that you shouldn't tell lies and that you should always tell the truth. Alright, so, yeah. But I really do hope you like this in all honesty. Please tell me if you do. But yeah, there's still a lot of great Thomas and Friends moments. I'm pretty sure you would all be, like, saying that in the comments below, that there are a lot of great Thomas episodes. I would be curious to know, like, what are your favorite episodes? Alright, so, now, this really isn't much of a variant. This is more like a, something that Thomas Adventures did when he made Tiny Tank engines. So, here we have, Donald the Scottish twin engine, but if you look closely, you'll know that he has cylinders and, like, he has different piston rods. Like, he does look a little bit like Percy, like, and Lady as well. Like, there are a lot of trains who have that wheel configuration. Here he is next to the original blue Donald. And before you ask me, yes, I do have a black Donald and Douglas. But like this was like after they were painted blue in the Railway series. Which, okay, I'm gonna say this, like, I think we should have gotten blue Donald and Douglas in the TV show. Like, they should have painted Donald and Douglas blue. Because, like, I think the reason they did this is so that, like, they could tell Donald and Douglas apart from other blue engines like Edward. But, like, okay, I know kids aren't smart and that they can't tell certain characters apart, like the narrow gauge engines, but, like, look at Edward and look at Donald here. Do you see the differences between them? Yeah, they have different tenders. They have different wheel arrangements. Like, Donald has 6 wheels, but Edward has, like, 2 big wheels on the front and 2 little wheels on the back. And, like, not to mention that Edward has a completely different design than Donald. So, like, how is it possible to tell these two apart if they're both blue? I'm sure adults would be able to tell them apart, but, like, okay, I understand, like, yeah, like I said, I know kids aren't smart, but, like, I feel like they should know, like, Donald and Edward are 2 different engines. Yeah, I don't know, like, what else to say about, like, this Donald, because, like, he's pretty much, like, the same as the other Donald, except he has, like, piston rods and cylinders. Now, you can actually remove them, like, just by clicking on his, side rod. That's another thing about the, Tiny Tank Engines Remastered game. Like, you can, like, do certain things, like, basically, you can change how these engines look. All you have to do is, like, for Edward's exploit, all you have to do is click on Edward's side rod. For Domeless Gordon, all you have to do is, like, click on his dome. And to change Gordon green, you just gotta click on his dome and click on, like, this part of, like, between the boiler and dome. For Old Shape Henry, all you have to do is, like, click on, this firebox here. For LBSC Thomas, the thing you have to do is, like, you have to click on his, dome to, like, change his colors, and click on his, number 1 to change the LBSC logos. For Black James, all you have to do is click on his tender and click on his dome to change it black. For James Goes Buzz Buzz, you have to click on his nose to, like, change it. And last but not least, for Close Shave for Duck, you have to click on his, face here to, like, make the shaving cream. But yeah, like, there are a lot of certain, like, aspects to Tiny Tank Engines that really make this game my favorite. For the fact that you can, like, change these characters to however you want and have a bit of mix and match fun. That's one of the things I love about these. I think that's what inspired me to make these guys, so, yeah. But anyways, yeah, I don't know what else to say, so, I think we have time for just one more character, so let's quickly speed through this. So here we have, Railway Series Daisy, the diesel rail car, and not much has changed. Like, yes, she's a different shade of green in that she actually does have a green face in the Railway series, but, like, I based it off of the Model Series Daisy. Like, Daisy has always been one of my favorite female characters, and I'm really happy that Andrew brought her back. But yeah, I do have other variants of the Railway series characters. Like, if you saw recently, I have a blue Donald, and I do actually have the red narrow gauge engines and a black Rusty. And if you want to check out the video, please do. Like, there is actually a YouTuber who created a playlist of all my Bluebird videos, which you should check out at some point. Like, I really do love these Bluebird model trains, and I actually do love the paper faces more than the 3D faces. So yeah, this is basically the same as the other Daisy, except it's just a darker shade of green. And they basically have the same lining, the same silver buffers, and the same face, although it's a bit different. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure you already know who Daisy is as a character. She's another one of those, like, she's basically a snarky, snooty diesel engine who doesn't like pulling freight cars and coaches, because, as she says, it's fitter's orders, and that pulling is bad for her swerves. Like, I bet you can tell that Daisy has a bit of an ego, like, James the Red Engine. Only the difference between her and James is that James doesn't like getting his paint dirty. However, Daisy doesn't like pulling freight cars. I'm pretty sure these two can relate in that regard. So, alright, so there are about 3 more characters left. So I'll see you in the next part.